views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
And hello and welcome to Open, the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Darren Hyman. Today we're going to update you on what's happening in and around our borough. Coming up on today's show, we'll give you an update on what's been going on right here in the Bronx. Plus, in the world of politics, former FBI Director James Comey will testify before the Senate Intelligence Committee. Sources say that Comey will testify that he never told President Trump he was under investigation. Plus, the White House won't say whether or not the president has confidence in Attorney General Sessions in the wake of Comey's testimony. We'll discuss that, as well as another suspected Russian hacking person, in this time involving a Qatar and U.S. allies. We'll explain all of that. Also, after that, we'll sit down with a representative from BronxWorks, who's going to discuss how the organization goes about helping senior citizens through many of their services. And then, as the president continues with his proposed withdrawal from the Paris Agreement, we're going to talk about how one organization is going about fighting against climate change. And then lastly, we're going to hear how one group is empowering and equipping young women of color to be financially prepared for college and life overall. So stay tuned, because all this and much more is heading your way. Right now, we're officially open. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Darren Hyman, and today is Wednesday, June the 7th. Of course, you're watching Open, a live interactive program bringing the Bronx and New York City straight to your TV set. We want to encourage you to stay connected to us, and you can find out more about us at Twitter at BronxNet TV and Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. Well, kicking things off, New York City public school gyms will be getting into shape. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio announced the city will invest $385 million into making sure that all public schools have gymnasiums. According to a 2015 audit by New York City Comptroller Scott Stringer, 435 city schools did not have a dedicated space for physical education. And by law, schools must provide 2 hours of physical education each week for elementary students and 90 minutes for junior high school and high school students. The mayor says 200 city school gymnasiums citywide are currently in need of an upgrade. In other news, also including on that, Mayor de Blasio also says, quote, kids need phys ed for their bodies, but they also need it for their minds. They need it for the ability to be calm, to focus, and to learn. And that's coming from the mayor. Well, as part of Bronx Pride Month, Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr. announced that his office will conduct an LGBTQ needs assessment survey right here in our borough. Now, the survey is going to help acquire more detailed information about the borough's LGBTQ residents and how they can provide the community with better government, cultural, medical, and other services, says the borough president. Now, Mayor Bill de Blasio has also signed an executive order committing New York City to the goals of the Paris Climate Agreement. Despite President Trump pulling out of the U.S. of the agreement, the executive order upholds and adopts the principle of the agreement, such as reducing greenhouse emissions by 80% by the year 2050, as well as keeping a global temperature increase below 1.5 degrees Celsius. The order will direct city agencies to work with the mayor and the Office of Sustainability to create a plan by September 30th, reducing their own greenhouse gas emissions. Also, New York City will also work with some other U.S. states as well as cities to meet commitments that are set in the agreement. Well, the Department of Education released its plan to increase and improve diversity in schools. The plan is to cut down economic segregation in schools by 10% over the next 5 years. The city also wants to increase the number of students racially represented by schools by 50,000. Now, in order for this to successfully happen, the Department of Education will reform the admission, among other things. Authors, publishers, creators, and celebrities, well, in the other news, I should say, authors, publishers, creators, and other celebrities gathered together for a celebration of books at the annual BookCon. And our reporter, Marvad Batista, has the story.
ReadPop presents BookCon at the Jacob Javits Center, New York City's signature convention where pop culture and the art of storytelling collide, while giving fans the opportunity to interact with publishers, authors, and literary icons. Participants of all ages bookmarked their calendar for the two-day convention, providing the importance of reading as well as giving fans a sneak peek at which books will be hitting the shelf soon.
Call it an optimistic disaster novel. It's a novel about the crisis that we're in and that will come, but it's a novel about people dealing with it gracefully and with the inability of rich people to believe that everybody else is just kind of getting on with it instead of eating each other.
Well, it's the basic idea of here's this galaxy-spanning empire, and it uses a natural feature of the universe called the flow to get around. And you can think of the flow like a little bit like a river going faster than the speed of light. So spaceships go into the flow, spaceships go out of the flow. And what happens when this natural feature of the universe, which everybody takes for granted is always going to be there, suddenly goes away? So we start the book right as that collapse is about to happen, and we follow as various people try to deal with the fact that civilization is maybe coming to an end.
My book is about pirates fighting robots about 150 years in the future, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. So one of the characters is a pharmaceutical pirate, and she's living in a world where drug companies have made their drugs so expensive that poor people can't afford to get regular health care and they're dying.
Candlewick Press creates positive messages with both in authors and readers while holding on to the importance of a children's book.
The reason why we think literacy is so important is because we want to create lifelong readers. Reading is this amazing skill, and it takes you to all these worlds that you might not necessarily get to go to. They expand your imagination. Just one book can take you to all these places that you might not ever get to see in your entire life. We just find that to be so incredibly important.
Celebrating its 98th birthday, Scholastic enters the classroom on a global level, understanding that literacy is the key to learning and achievement while standing by their belief that all children can learn.
Scholastic is 98 years old this year, which is incredible, coming up on our 100th anniversary. I mean, our connection to school is unparalleled. We host thousands of book fairs, throughout the United States and globally. It's amazing. The energy is like electric, that kids are here to get excited about books. It's like, it just feels amazing.
One of Scholastic's biggest sellers is Adventures of Captain Underpants, the story of two boys and a superhero that began many years ago in the imagination of a second-grade boy.
Actually, my teacher inspired me when I was in second grade. We were sitting in class one day and she said the word underwear and everyone started laughing, and so that was the beginning of Captain Underpants. I think that's the whole idea behind Captain Underpants, is to try to make reading fun for kids, to show them that reading doesn't have to be too serious all the time, it doesn't have to be punishment. You can actually have a good time with the book, and that's the whole idea.
The 2017 BookCon provides a chance to turn a new page in literacy, while providing an opportunity to explore the joys of reading to the newest generation. Reporting for BronxNet, this is Mariví Batista.
And thank you, Mari. We'll take a quick break and bring you the latest in politics.
Hey, look, it's those guys.
Let's go, Pearly Whites, man.
Yeah, boys, check it out.
Ooh, cute.
Are you good to try?
I'm fine.
Hey girl, what's up? What's the name? What's good? What's up?
How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be.
Sir, go and step out of the vehicle for me.
Yes, sir. See ya, buddy. Today, Sean's got a hearing. We'll see how it goes. Good luck. So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.
And we are back here on Open. Former FBI Director James Comey will testify about his interactions with President Trump during the Russian investigations. Now, the president has said that he told Comey multiple times that he was not, or I should say Comey told him multiple times that he was not under investigation. It's also stated that in the New York Times that Comey has told Attorney General Jeff Sessions, quote, not to leave him alone with the president. Jeff Sessions and President Trump have recently gotten into a heated exchange after Sessions recused himself from the Russian probe. According to CNN sources, they say that Sessions is willing to quit if the president no longer wants him there. Also, we've got latest news that the president is set to name Christopher Wray as the new FBI director. Joining us more now to talk more about this and more, we've got Lee Bynes, owner of Retrovision Media, our political analyst as well, and good to have you.
Good to be back.
So let's go front and center on this one. First of all, we know that the president's talking about a new nomination for FBI director. Your thoughts, what do you know?
I would say, being the ultimate skeptic, that this announcement is at a suspicious time, considering the fact that Comey's going to be talking about what happened in that office tomorrow. I think it was sort of like just something to move the news along and get past this. The idea that Comey would be up there testifying against the president with a vacant space at the top of the FBI does not look good. So he had to have somebody out there. Now, Christopher Wray is, I believe he's Governor Christie's attorney. Governor Christie was represented by him during the Bridgegate scandal. So, you know, as far as I know, it was Christie who recommended this guy to the president. I guess supposedly if he was able to keep Christie out of trouble, he would be helpful to the president. But moving forward, I don't see how this moves the needle for the president in any positive direction, because again, he's got to get past tomorrow.
Talking about tomorrow, talking about former FBI Director James Comey and his testifying. What could we expect, and what do you think this is going to bring out?
My best guess right now is that Comey will probably go up in front of the hearing and be very, very methodical in his way of presenting his case. The president, again, has backed himself into a corner right now, so he can only sit and wait and watch. The flip side of that argument, if JC was here, he would probably say that the Republican members of this hearing is probably going to try and dirty Comey up a little bit. They're going to try and get that shine off of him by asking him the tough questions. If this was in fact your feelings as to what occurred in that meeting, and you felt some form of pressure when you came before Congress earlier, you didn't bring that up. You didn't indicate that you felt that you were being pressured, and he's got to get past that. And that might be rather difficult for him. But all in all, if the public has to determine whether or not the president is truthful or James Comey is truthful, I think public opinion will rest with James Comey.
And what do we make for? I talked about in the intro that the Comey tells Jeff Sessions that, listen, I don't want to be alone with the president. What should we be reading into this?
If that can be confirmed, it definitely sets the tone for Comey's reservations, if you will, to be able to say that, look, I did have issues with what happened in that office. Right afterwards, I made copious notes. I shared them with other people, just as a matter of record, to make sure that that position, though that incident is properly documented in case it was needed legally down the line, and it is.
So looking forward to tomorrow's investigation, and then talking about testimony. Could this in any possible way backfire on Comey?
I don't think so, because I think it's more likely that it could backfire on a lot of Democrats who are hoping that they get some real fireworks out of this situation. I'm a little suspect of whether or not Comey's testimony is going to rise to the level of the hype that we've been hearing over the last couple of weeks. It's certainly exciting. It certainly presents the appearance of obstruction of justice being involved in the situation. But I would say we have to wait and see, because we just don't know how good of a job or what the Republicans are planning to sabotage this man's character during the process.
And speaking of sabotage, the Russians allegedly planted false stories behind the Mideast crisis. Your thoughts?
Well, if it can be confirmed, the United States is saying that the Russians were behind a fake story with regards to Qatar, and Qatar's slowly moving into Iran's orbit. Iran's a Shia nation. The Gulf states, the 50 Gulf states that met with President Trump 2 weeks ago, were at that meeting. They're all Sunni states. This has turned into a Sunni Shia sectarian issue. President Trump unwisely sided with the Sunnis, with Saudi Arabia, signing that multi-billion-dollar deal with them wasn't helpful. If the president was wise, he probably would have stayed out of this fight. He probably would have let the State Department handle it. Those who are underneath him has been out with a great deal of fury trying to settle things down. The president made a huge strategic error by the fact that he didn't recognize or didn't know or wasn't aware of the fact that Qatar hosts a major Air Force base there. There's between 8,000 and 11,000 service members there. That Air Force base is being used right now to conduct operations in Afghanistan, Syria, and Iraq. They are a strategic ally in the region. So for him the president, to side with the Saudi Arabia, and then the argument on the Saudi side and the other five nations the other five Arab countries that went against Qatar are all Sunni states that have a difficult time dealing with Iran. And so when they lined up against Qatar, if it was Russia's intention to wedge that gap, they've done a pretty good job, because Russia's already on the side of the Syrians. So if he could bring another state, break off another state, that would be a great coup for Russia again.
We've got breaking news, of course, today. The ISIS now claiming their responsibility in the deadly twin attacks taking place in Tehran. A lot of news happening internationally. When you look at the president, in this particular case, he sends a tweet voicing his support for the regional blockade of Qatar. What's to make of a president actually tweeting about foreign affairs? Because there's a lot of people who say when it comes to foreign affairs or many diplomatic matters that the president should not be on Twitter.
Well, see, the thing is that I think a lot of people are missing the real story on the Twitter situation with the president. The president is using Twitter to connect directly with his base. He says it all the time. I can bypass the mainstream media by using Twitter and connecting directly to my base without having his message modified by the media. The only problem is that he's tweeting to a very, very, very small segment of the United States. And by him talking directly to his base that way, what he fails to realize is that the rest of the world is listening. So when he says things like it was a cool idea to expose Qatar for the possibility that they were paying or financing terror in the region, he's actually coming against one of our own allies that we desperately need in the region if we're going to prosecute these wars continuously.
So as we look forward to the next coming weeks, is what we've got going. We got the investigation coming around about. What else can we expect to see coming out of Washington?
That's an interesting question, and almost one nearly impossible to answer.
Every week it changes.
It changes, not by the week. It changes by the minute. And so I would say that the public, the citizens, would be very, very wise to just sit back, wait until see what happens after the Comey hearings tomorrow, and I think from there you can kind of like plot a course. Right now, everything is going to be up in the air because simply the president, his entire staff, The entire media is pretty much going to be sitting on pins and needles until they find out what happens tomorrow. Although what happens today could have a significant impact as well, because the director of the National Intelligence will be on Capitol Hill talking about the FISA warrants. He too had an incident with President Trump with regards to him being also asked not to go too much further with this investigation. He refused to go far enough during his first trip to Capitol Hill, but he may be put under some pressure by the Democrats when he talks to further his conversation a little bit more in that direction, because that's what people really want to know. Therein lies the problem. Therein lies the possibility of obstruction of justice. And so if we get some sort of corroboration or agreement that it was more than one, it was more than two people who had this, because the National Security Agency's top head, Rogers, was also faced with a similar circumstance. So once all of these people, that's when you'll find the pressure building. Comey is just one part of the process. These other two gentlemen will support him, I believe.
Lee Bynes, our political analyst, also the owner of Retrovision Media. Catch him every week here, along with J.C. Polanco. J.C. been off the last couple of weeks. We'll get him back on the set to square off in a little while. Lee, thanks again.
That's my pleasure.
All righty. Take a quick break. We'll be back with more show coming up right after this.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your closet. Still no jobs? Just more stuff? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed. And they're the stuff inside your stuff. Our job is to unlock those jobs. And it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
I'm only 17, but I know about investing. Believe in something, buy shares in it, watch it grow. So, what if you could invest in the future? The future of kids, like a stock. Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change. A whole new kind of investment called Better Futures. When you invest, it helps kids go to college. I could be one of the first college graduates from my family, the first philanthropist from my neighborhood. And if I'm the first, then maybe there's a second and a third. Believe in us, invest in us, watch us grow. My name is Sydney, and I'm your dividend.
Homelessness in New York City continues to be an issue. Some of those are people at risk for homeless, senior citizens, and often they go unnoticed. The Senior Homeless Project at BronxWorks helps senior citizens in many ways avoid eviction. Joining us now to tell us more about the program, along with other senior services, we welcome now BronxWorks Development Director Ken Small, who's no stranger to being a guest here on our studio.
Darren, it's good to be back. How
good
are
to have you back. How's everything going?
Good, thank you.
Good. I want to have this conversation because it's very important as we talk
Sure.
about homelessness in New York City. Everybody's concerned about homelessness.
Of
but
course.
when you really talk about seniors being affected, I think that's often the unnoticed group, as we said in the intro.
Right.
Talk about how big homelessness is amongst seniors.
You know, one of the real struggles, Darren, is it's often difficult to get a handle on how big this issue is, because oftentimes what happens with seniors who are vulnerable to homelessness is you don't see them. So they're not the folks that you typically see on the streets. They're not the folks that you typically see riding subways. They may be the folks who are living in doubled up situations. They may be the folks that are living in situations that aren't optimal, but because they're kind of hidden, we oftentimes don't pay a whole lot of attention to them. And sometimes the struggle is bringing concerns that relate to seniors, seniors' homelessness, and seniors at risk of being homelessness. A big issue is bringing more attention to that concern. And that's one of the things that BronxWorks has been focusing on now for a number of years, and it's a reason why we have a number of programs that specifically target older adults who may be vulnerable to homelessness.
And you've got a homelessness prevention project, and so talk to us about that.
Among other things.
Amongst other things that really deals with seniors.
Yeah, the Seniors Homelessness Prevention Project is a project that is specifically based in Bronx Housing Court, and it's the only program of its kind anywhere in terms of the 5 housing courts here in New York City. And it was created specifically because the administrative judge, or administrative judges, I should say, at Bronx Housing Court noticed that there were many seniors who needed help in terms of navigating the housing court procedure, the housing court process, but did not have any assistance. So about 6-7 years ago, the gentleman who was then the chief administrative judge at Bronx Housing Court came to BronxWorks because he knew that BronxWorks had a number of programs and services that focused on eviction prevention, and he said, what could be done? And we began a pilot project that allowed us to basically retain one person. That one person worked with about 150 seniors the initial year. We quickly realized that we needed more than one person. And therefore, we went back to a private funder, asked the funder if we could get additional resources. The additional resources enabled us to retain 2 staff persons to do casework with seniors and a 3rd staff person to do intake and assessments. And as a result, over the course of the last 2 years, we've been able to engage over 420 seniors.
And looking at what you've been able to do through private dollars, that's been great. Looking right now, there's also a push to try to get some public funding to be able to help you through the city budget. Where does that stand?
Yeah, we've been very fortunate in terms of the current fiscal year, meaning the year that's going to end June 30th. I say fortunate in the sense that last year we had an outreach and education effort to the city council, and it kind of put us in a position where we were able to get our feet wet. And it also allowed us to help raise awareness of this program. So we were fortunate to receive a small grant from the city council speaker. This year, the city budget is still in development. It's about 96% done, but there's some minor details that still need to be worked out. So there are conversations that are still going on in terms of funding for the Seniors Homelessness Prevention Project with respect to public support. We're continuing to keep our fingers crossed. We know that we've had a number of folks in terms of the Bronx delegation of the City Council who have been very strong and very forceful advocates on our behalf. Vanessa Gibson, Councilman Salamanca, Councilman Torres, they've all been very strong, very forceful advocates for this particular effort. So now it's a matter of waiting a couple of more weeks to see what happens between now and June 30th. July 1, as you know, the city has to have a budget completely finalized.
And hopefully you want to be included in the finalized budget. Talk to me about...
We're keeping our fingers crossed in that regard.
Yeah. A lot of lobbying going on during this time, or?
We sometimes shy away from the word lobbying, but what we do say is we spent a lot of time engaging our elected officials. We spent a lot of time with program participants who were previously enrolled in the program to get them to tell the story, their stories. And we've also done some work with the media so that, I'm here talking about the program, so that the general public can also become more aware of this effort and become more aware of concerns affecting seniors and housing in general.
Which leads me to my next question about what exactly are the concerns? Because I think we don't always have a full grasp and a full knowledge as to how seniors are adversely affected, what they go through in housing court, and what kind of advocacy you provide, particularly at the level of court.
Yeah, well, there's a few things that typically happen in housing court. One is they're there, and just the process of being able to get through the court building itself, to go from part 1 to part 2, and to have an understanding of what all the legalese means. You know, there are folks out there who have doctorates who would have trouble navigating Bronx Housing Court on their own, much less an older adult who may have a physical challenge, an older adult who may have limited English proficiency. So what we do in part is to help the seniors get through court, understand what's being said during the course of the court proceedings. Another big part of what we do with the Seniors Homelessness Prevention Project is to look to identify additional income sources for the senior. So we check to see if the senior has applied for food stamps. We check to see if the senior has health insurance, health prescription discounts. We look for other income support so as to increase the amount of income that that senior may have, and in the process, therefore, reduce the likelihood that she or he will end up back in housing court once we've taken care of their case.
And you guys have touted, and this is a wonderful number, 424 seniors actually have been helped out and prevented from becoming homeless since the program has first gotten started.
Last 2 years.
Yeah, that's, when you look at 424 people over a 2-year period, what does that say to you? Because I mean, right now, that makes me cringe.
What it says to me is, thank goodness we have this program, because had this program not existed, there's a strong likelihood that those older adults may have ended up in the city shelter system. And I think what sometimes folks forget in terms of this story is, not only is this a good human interest story, this is also a good economic efficiency story. So on average, it costs us about $1,200, $1,300 to keep a senior out of the shelter system. If a senior winds up in the shelter system, the city's going to end up spending over $27,000. So take your choice. Do you want to spend $1,200 to $1,300 doing prevention, or do you want to spend over $27,000 to keep a senior in a shelter?
I think the numbers speak for themselves. By way of public support, I mean, obviously you've got a lot of, community support, elected officials are supporting. What can the public do in helping to support this?
I think there's a few things that the public can do right now. They can go to the BronxWorks webpage, and we actually have on our website, we have a page that provides more information that relates to the program. So in terms of education, that's a very good, a very important first step. And folks who are here in the Bronx, they can call their respective city council persons to continue to urge them to support this particular legislation.
And of course, we want people to find out more about it. Now, if you want more information, you go to www.bronxworks.org. You can find out more information about this particular program as well as the other senior services. And very briefly, tell us a little bit about some of the other senior services you have.
Well, just to kind of like very quickly run through a laundry list, BronxWorks has 4 senior centers. We also provide social services at the naturally occurring retirement community in River Park Towers, and we have a minor repair program that provides home repair services for older adults as well. In addition, we have 4 walk-in offices that provide services to the general public, but about 1/3 to 2/5 of the people who use those services are seniors.
Ken Smalls, Development Director of BronxWorks, is always good to have you, and best wishes on this. Of course, we'll continue to follow this, and hopefully you can come back and share with us some good news.
I'm going to keep my fingers crossed.
All righty, Ken Small. All righty. Listen, stay with us. We got more show coming up. Stay with us.
I love taking care of my mom. It wasn't easy at first. She learned how to better communicate her needs,
And you learned how to not ignore yours.
I discovered how to make healthier meals.
And I discovered how much I enjoyed them.
Becoming a caregiver is a learning experience for everyone. Find articles, tips, and tools from experts and others who have been in your place. The Caregiving Resource Center at aarp.org/caregiving.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
So they say it's a man's world?
Well, I don't see anybody's name on it. While they were out doing their thing, we slowly changed all that. We changed all that. Today, women can do anything men can do. And there's one thing we're even better at.
Well, recently, President Donald Trump made the decision to withdraw the United States from the Paris Agreement. This left many upset, considering climate change still remains an issue. Many organizations, such as the New York Renews, are for the Paris Agreement, and they're fighting renewable energy and much more. Joining us now to discuss the Paris Agreement, along with the New York Renews organization mission, please welcome campaign coordinator for New York Renews, Dan Sherrill, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Obviously, a lot of concern for you guys as we continue to have this battle against climate change, and you're at the forefront of really trying to bring awareness to this.
Yeah, I mean, what we saw with the decision from President Trump yesterday, it was a historically immoral decision, a historically misguided decision, and a decision, frankly, guided by very undemocratic forces, right? These are the oil and gas dollars flowing into his cabinet, flowing into the billionaires. He sucked up the swamp and put it in Washington, and that's the kind of policy we're getting, right? It's policy that throws Americans under the bus, it throws workers under the bus. Donald Trump says his big line, right? Let's put America first, you know, make America great again. What he's really doing is putting America last. He is abdicating our leadership on the greatest threat to human civilization today. He's also forfeiting American leadership on the clean energy economy, which is the future of energy, right? He's stuck in the past, and he's stuck in the past because he's bought and paid for by fossil fuel billionaires.
Well, let me talk about this. For people who don't know a little bit about the Paris Agreement, talk about the Paris Agreement. What exactly does that mean?
So the Paris Agreement was a historical accord agreed on by, I believe, 192 countries, so every country in the world besides Syria, Nicaragua, and Nicaragua because they didn't think it was aggressive enough, and now the United States. So we're in the company of 2 other nations in the entire planet. All these countries, for the first time in history, agreed climate change is one of the greatest threats facing our civilization, and every country is going to work to reduce its climate pollution so we can keep our families and communities safe and keep civilization prosperous. Now, Trump's removal from the Paris Accord means that now American states like New York and California, who are some of the world's largest economies, need to step up and fill that leadership vacuum. If our federal government's going to keep its head in the sand, then we're going to do their work for them, and that's what the New York Renews Coalition is about.
And one of the big pushes that you have is about creating sustainable jobs.
Yeah.
So when you talk about creating sustainable jobs, how do you go about looking to push and make this happen?
Yeah, totally. So we have a bill that was literally last night in the dead of night introduced in the New York State Assembly called the Climate and Community Protection Act. And this would be the strongest climate, jobs, and justice legislation in the country, and it does 3 things primarily. The first thing, it was to make legally mandatory for New York to reach 100% renewable energy. That means wind, solar, geothermal energy efficiency by 2050. which keeps our families safe from the effects of climate change. You know, when Hurricane Sandy hit, my grandmother lives down in the Rockaways. She was trapped in her apartment for 4 days. Like, we didn't know if she was alive or dead. She's 94 years old. This problem has come home to roost for New Yorkers, so this is about keeping New Yorkers safe. The second thing it does is it makes sure that 40%, minimum 40% of state energy funding goes to low-income, disadvantaged environmental justice communities. So those communities who have faced the burden of pollution, here in the Bronx, highest asthma rates in the country, historically, those communities are going to get priority funding to build sustainability and to build resiliency to climate change. And third, you talk about jobs. This bill would mandate that all renewable energy jobs that receive any kind of state funding abide by fair labor standards. So as the clean energy economy takes off, we're not talking about McDonald's jobs, exploitative jobs. We're talking about good union jobs that lift people into the middle class. And the point about setting all of this in law is that's what you need to do to give clean energy investors the certainty that they need to come in, build projects in New York, like wind, like solar, like retrofitting all our building stock. It means making it more efficient. There's a huge amount of jobs there. Gives them the certainty they need to say, okay, I'm going to get a return on my investment because this is literally written into New York State's law. So we could see a huge renaissance in our economy, but we got to set the policy landscape to make it happen.
And you really talk about helping out New Yorkers, and I want to talk about how does how does New York Renew actually benefit, help New Yorkers in ways that sometimes we don't even know.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's talk about the New York we're trying to create, right? Right now, we have a New York that's vulnerable to the effects of climate change. We saw that with Superstorm Sandy. We have a New York where joblessness rates are higher than we'd like them to be, and there are a lot of jobs, especially in the energy industry, that aren't unionized. And we have a New York where a lot of communities, especially low-income communities of color, are facing disproportionate burdens from pollution, right? There's a reason why Bronx kids are going to Lincoln Hospital with asthma 2 times, 3 times a month, and Park Slope kids are sitting pretty, you know? That's called environmental racism, and we want to fight it. So what this legislation would do, if we talk about passing this legislation, what does the New York it create look like? That New York is powered by entirely renewable energy, so families don't have to choose between turning the light switch on and making their kids sick, right? That's a false choice. We can create energy in a way that keeps our society healthy. So on the one hand, we're talking about making New Yorkers literally healthier on a day-to-day basis, safe from climate change. What we're also talking about is, right now, New Yorkers, when you turn on the light switch, you're not like invested or familiar with where that energy is coming from. You know, there's some system of wire, it leads off to a power plant somewhere. Who knows where that power plant is? What we're talking about with the renewable energy revolution is bringing that energy home, democratizing it. So when you turn on the light switch in your home, you know that light switch is coming from solar panels down the block that your friend helped build, you know? So a green job, a job where you're getting paid to install solar panels or wind turbines or to put insulation on buildings, that's not going to be an exception to the rule. That is going to be the most common type of energy job in New York. And there are going to be far more of them than there are currently jobs in coal, oil, and natural gas.
We're hearing more about climate change today. I remember, when climate change was a foreign word. I think Al Gore was probably, former Vice President Al Gore was probably at the forefront of really changing our awareness about that. Talk to me about where we are today. How many more people do you think are we more aware about climate change? Is it where it needs to be? And how much more awareness do we really need to make across America with this?
So 2 answers to that. One is, if you look at the polling, a majority of people in every United States state, including red states, believes in the science of climate change, believes that it's being driven by man, and believes, or people I should say, and believes that we need to do something about it. A large majority of the United States was opposed to Trump's withdrawal from the climate accords. So absolutely people are beginning to wake up, despite all the money that the oil and gas industry has put into our political process to try to keep people asleep. Secondly, I think you're seeing it, so I should have talked about this already, I'm the campaign coordinator for this giant coalition of organizations across New York called New York Renews. And New York Renews, it's not just environmental organizations. It's labor unions, it's low-income community groups, including groups in the Bronx like The Point, Nos Quedamos, Northwest Bronx Community Clergy Coalition. I think the issue of climate change is the light bulb is beginning to turn on for people that this is not an environmental issue, right? This is not a save the whales issue. A whale, I love whales personally, but they're a thing out there, right? Whales they're not sitting at my dinner table eating the food I'm trying to put on the table, right? People are realizing that climate change is a problem that arises from and contributes to social, racial, and economic injustice. And that if we can tackle climate change, we can also tackle a lot of the inequality problems that are plaguing our society. So I think climate change is, more and more people are waking up to the urgency of the problem, and also we're starting to see this problem in a more intersectional context, if you will. It's not just about saving the trees or the rainforests. It's about, literally, it's a fight for survival. Right. Me as a young person, it's a fight for my future.
It's about making people aware, and Dan, you're doing a good job about that. For people who want more information, what do they do?
Go to nyrenews.org. There's a Take Action page, and we will give you everything you need to advocate with your legislators, including your legislators in the Bronx, like Carl Heastie and Jeff Klein.
Dan Sherrill, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks so
Campaign coordinator for New York Renews.
Yeah.
Pleasure having you. You got to come on
Likewise.
back.
Yeah,
all right?
absolutely.
All right, cool. Take a quick break. We got more open right after this. Oh, you stayed there a second.
We are neighbors and best friends.
I love my sister.
My heart doesn't see race. Love is love.
Our family is no less than any other family.
1 minute to find out if you may have prediabetes. You can do it here. But you probably won't. You're busy. Kids, work, show coming back in 48 seconds. So let's do this now. Hold up one finger if you're a man, women, 0. 3 more fingers if you're over 60, 2 over 50, 1 over 40. If you're not sure, keep in mind you're sitting on a couch right now, so 1 more finger if you're not very active. 1 finger if yes, 0 if no. 1 yes, 0 no. Next, find the body type that looks most like you and hold up that many fingers while I look around awkwardly. And that's it. If you're holding up 5 fingers or more, you probably have prediabetes. Sorry to be so blunt, but hey, you're busy. Just go to the site.
Well, recently, many have tried to find out about the president's first 100 days in office. Well, there's not just the president. There's, in our area, Congressman Adrian Espaillat. He had his first 100 days in Congress. Our reporter, Katie Eloy Knight, brings us the story.
His first 100 days in Congress, our Congressman, Adriano Espaillat.
Right at the Tracy Towers in the north section of the Bronx, a meeting of commemoration to mark Congressman Adriano Espaillat's first 100 days in Congress and his resistance to some of the president's policies going forth was held.
Now, if we could connect those 4 movements, if we can get women that understand that Planned Parenthood must be funded to understand that immigration rights is just as important as that. And if we can get immigrants to understand that just like immigration reform is good for them, that it is important to march for the environment. And if we can get the environmentalists to know as they walk down the street and they see those kids in the corners that black lives really matter, then we can have a national movement that cannot be stopped by anybody. We can have a national movement that cannot be stopped by anybody.
Congressman Adriano Espaillat said that a legislation had been presented regarding the question of immigration. for ICE agents to wear body cam, and for them to be disallowed from entering locations such as the church, funeral homes, schools, and hospitals. Another legislation is for a background check for those who want to purchase weaponry.
I thought the information that he brought was excellent. It was informative. It's what we need to know so we can organize ourselves and fight what needs to be fought now.
Other members of the Bronx community came out to ask questions about the next 100 days and other issues that they are currently facing.
What made me come here is to see the atrocious conditions of the ERs over in the Bronx, specifically on 210th Street.
I know you're strong, I know you continue to move forward, and I know you'll keep the faith. Thank you so much.
For BronxNet, I am Katie Aloy Knight.
And thank you, Katie. The Seeds of Fortune organization is dedicated to helping young girls with scholarships, along with helping them to be financially prepared through their programs. Here to tell us more about the organization and their upcoming Seed to Bloom Gala event, we welcome now the Seeds of Fortune founder, Natalia Walker. And good to have you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. And when we talk about young ladies, obviously you guys have a special push, young ladies financial literacy, and combining the two together, and there you have Seeds of Fortune. So give us a little bit about Seeds of Fortune.
Well, Seeds of Fortune was started when I was in college. I went to Babson College, and when I was in high school, I had a woman in my community that helped me to be able to get scholarships to college. I didn't really understand the college process, and the price tag was very pricey for me to be able to go. So throughout the summer of my senior year, she helped me to put my application together. And because she took the time out to help me, I was able to get the Posse full tuition scholarship to Babson, as well as the Girl Scout Woman of Distinction scholarship. Going from Babson to Brooklyn, it was a big transition. And Wellesley, where my campus is located, is one of the richest towns in America. And then to go back to Brooklyn before it was gentrified, I saw a drastic change in the economic conditions of the people there. And I was trying to figure out why people in my community didn't have the same resources as the people in the Wellesley communities and other communities that were in the Boston area. So I decided upon my junior year of college that I want to take the skill sets that the woman had taught me on how to get scholarships to college and then go back and teach girls in my community how to do that.
And so now you go back and you teach these young ladies how to do that, and you've got a special group of young ladies that you work with.
Yes, definitely. So we definitely cater to the girls in the Bronx and the surrounding boroughs. But the way we go throughout the process is that they're in their junior year of high school as well as their senior year of high school. They go through a year-long training process where we put together their college essays, their resumes. We teach them about financial literacy with the Museum of Finance on Wall Street, as well as helping them to be able to make their first financial decision, which is the college loan process. As you know, a lot of Americans are in student debt loans, and we want to make sure that our girls, the colleges are paying for our girls to go to school. So when the girls get their financial aid packages from the colleges, we are the ones that sit down at the kitchen table and tell them, okay, which schools are going to be able to be better for your economic future.
And you've got an annual gala that's coming up too, and that's going to be a very special time for you guys. What's going to happen at the gala?
The gala is going to be great. So we are going to be honoring 3 women in the community. The first woman that we're going to be honoring is our Her Wall Street Award winner, which is Jacqueline Hayat, and she is the COO of Iron Harbor Capital. And then we're also going to be honoring Karen Tappan, who is the founder and CEO of Karen's Bayou Beautiful, which is a hair care and skin line. And our last honoree is someone that's very important, in particular to our mission and cause, is the Dean of Admissions at Wellesley College, who is Joy St. John, and she will be our Woman of the Year. Now, the second part of the ceremony, which I think all the parents are excited about, is when we honor their students for getting their scholarships into college. And we've gotten about $6 million offered to our girls this year in scholarships.
That's awesome.
Thank you. And then we'll also be inducting our new girls into the program. So we've grown about double our size this year.
How do you go about picking girls for the program?
So we go through a very intense application process, which actually opens up October 1st, 2017. So first, the girls are scouted out through their guidance counselors in different schools throughout New York City. We have about 98 partner organizations, and then we also have the girls self-nominate their peers. From there, they go through the application process, and we cut it down by 50%. And then from there, they're interviewed into the program.
Criteria?
The criteria is, well, we feel like we're kind of different than other nonprofit organizations because we believe that grit is something that helps the girls to be successful. If you can overcome obstacles, if you know that you are determined and you have a future for you, these are the kind of skill sets we're looking for. So we go through our different pillars, which is entrepreneurship. Is the girl self-aware? Is the girl socially aware? Is she involved in her community? These are the type of girls we believe that will be leaders and will complete the college process, but also care about their financial futures as well.
And so if young ladies want to become a part, they should definitely seek out their guidance counselor, you would suggest?
Yes, they can also self-nominate themselves and put in an application. So if they go to our website, seedsoffortune.org, once it opens up in the fall/apply, they'll be able to apply directly to the program themselves without their guidance counselors.
And summer's upon us, and I know you have a summer program as well.
Yes, so our summer program is the foundation of our organization. The girls go through a week-long intense boot camp process where they are taken through the college application process. Every single day they have a deliverable, which is their resumes, their college essays, their college applications, as well as an intensive interview process. And we're going to have great guests in the community, as well as they're going to do a shadow day with startups at Alley Tech.
That's awesome. And so tell me a little bit about a couple more before we get out of here. I know you got a couple of the programs that you do have. You got Seed University.
Yes, so I think a great thing about our program is that to ensure that the girls have a founded base for their financial futures, that we stay with them through the college process. So once the girls finish our program, their senior year, they are then bridged into our University Scholars Program. And that is another 4-year journey where we focus on career and internships, as well as their financial literacy process upon graduation from college.
And so for people who want more information, of course, we got the information at the bottom of the screen. We encourage you to go and find out more about this. And there's so many ways that you can really tap in and really find out. What is the hardest part for these young ladies in this process? Because it's very complex already as a father trying to get his child into college, I know. So what's the hardest part about really dealing with this whole thing?
I think the hardest part for the girls is their college essay, because this is the time where they really have to pick one moment in time where they have to talk about themselves, talk about their stories, talk about their communities. And sometimes they find it very difficult to be able to concise that into 600 words, I would say, for the common application. But I think that the girls, the number one thing they say out of the process that they got from Seeds of Fortune is that they were able to tell their story in a succinct way and learn more about themselves than they ever knew before they started the program.
Well, Natalia Walker, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us a little bit about Seeds of Fortune. The annual gala is this weekend, and we pray that it's a good one and you have a wonderful time. And, of course, people get connected to you. Thank you. All righty. Well, listen, I want to let you know we come to the end of our show today. I want to thank our guests for joining us. Most of all, I want to thank you, the viewer, for tuning in. Now, if you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the recablecast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Optimum's Channel 67. If you don't have that, you might have Verizon Fios, and there we're on Channel 33, or anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. I'm Darren Hyman. It's been a pleasure coming to your homes. Until the next time we meet, stay safe, keep this channel wide open, and take care. God bless.
GetSchooled.com. You want a college education, don't you? Gary, financial aid forms. Biology homework, G. What? Picking a college, man. You and us go together like tacos and Tuesday. And I'll